everyone, and welcome to Crafternoons. I'm Miss Angela with the Indian Valley Public Library, and today we're going to be taking a look at this book. It's called Starting Drawing. It's part of the Usborne First Skills series, and it's written by Anna Claiborne. Now, this is a really great book if you are just learning how to draw, because it gives you everything you might possibly need in order to learn some drawing skills. So I just want to show you, before we get started with our project, I just want to show you some of what is available through the beginning of this book here. What I thought was really cool is they talk about different kinds of pencils, different kinds of crowns and pen and paper. It talks about different textures of paper here, and what kind of things you can do with the different kinds of paper. It talks about charcoal, and it talks about other ways to draw. So what's really cool about this book, even if you're not a beginner drawer, even if you've been drawing for a while, it gives you some other ways to draw, which I thought was pretty cool. I never really thought about drawing with a Q-tip, but they talk about that, and they talk about drawing in paint. It's just really neat. It's got a bunch of tips. So even if you're not a beginner drawer, this is a really neat book to look at. And what's really cool about it is they talk about different kinds of skills that you can use, and then there's projects that have something to do with that skill. So what I thought we would do today is I want to show you this. This is a line. It's called Taking a Line for a Walk. And there's two different types of activity you can do here. In this picture, in this activity, you're drawing a specific picture. So this one, they draw a face. And what you do is you start at one point and you draw, and you never pick your hand up from the paper. So it's one continuous line. So here they drew a portrait, they drew a boot, they drew some flowers, here's a butterfly. So that's a really cool, I like this activity, but I wanted to start a little bit simpler. And I feel like this activity right here is a little simpler. It is an abstract line drawing. This is a really, really neat project, and you can make it as simple or as complex as you want. Now here they also even show you how to mount your final project here. We're not going to do that today, but we are going to do that, this activity. It's called the abstract line walk. What's really cool is once you get the concept, you don't really need the book at all. So you just need, what you're just going to need in order to follow along here is a blank piece of paper, a pencil. I have an eraser on my pencil. Since you're drawing one continuous line, you're probably not going to need the eraser. You could have some kind of a dark marker to trace over the lines if you want. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then you're going to want something to color with. And you can pick colored pencils or markers like I have, or crowns. I would recommend for this one having something with a small tip. These are not the crowns that I'm going to use, but these have a fat tip. Something with a small tip, and I'll talk to a little bit more about that. So that's what you're going to need. And basically the whole point of this activity is, this part is really simple. The line part is really simple. You just pick a spot anywhere on your paper to start drawing, and you kind of just draw either straight lines or a wavy line. I like to draw a wavy line, and I personally like to start in the top corner. You can start anywhere on the page that you want. That's what's really cool about this project. You kind of can just do whatever. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to draw some wavy lines. And the lines can cross each other, and the whole point is the lines can really go anywhere, and they can cross each other, but you never pick the pencil up from the paper. So I'm going to stop right here on the other side. So that's the basics of my picture. Now here, once you have the basic lines that you're drawing, and like I said, you can draw zigzags, you can draw straight lines, and all kinds of curvy lines, however you want to do it, as long as you don't pick your pencil up from the paper. That's the whole point. Now what I have here is a whole bunch of sections. Now this is where the fun part happens, and this is where you can really get creative, or as complicated or as simple as you want. There's two ways you can approach this. If you want each section of your picture to really pop, I would recommend drawing with a Sharpie, tracing the lines. I did not opt to do that. I'm not sure if I would do that now, having thought about it a little bit and seeing how my project turned out. But I kind of like the way it turned out, and I'll show you that in a second. But here you can draw each section any way you want. So I'm going to show you how mine turned out. I draw another one, not this one here, but I did this already ahead of time, and this is what I ended up with. So what I opted to do was I opted to draw some solid colored spaces, and then I drew some with patterns. And what I really like about it is it's a little bit crazy, and the sections don't really necessarily go together. I did not opt to trace my lines. That's the thing that I'm not sure, maybe going back and doing this project again, maybe I'd try to do that and see how it looks. I kind of like how you don't really see the edges of the sections. They just kind of, they're different. And so, like I said, you can flip this upside down. Like I drew some hearts and some squiggly lines. Now what I did was, this was one big section, and I decided this section was a little too big, so I split it into two. And here again, this was one big section, and I split it into two. So you can kind of, when you color it, you can kind of make it look different. I used some thinner crowns for this picture. Like I said, you can use markers, you can use colored pencils, you can use anything with a tip. And the reason why I say tip is that if you're going to put some patterns in there, it's easier with a smaller tip to do that. So you can really have a lot of fun with this, and you can even experiment with different textures, different types of coloring implements in one picture. You can really, really have a lot of fun with this. And like I said, the first part, drawing those lines, really simple, get it done. The fun part is really bringing out your design and coming up with something creative. So I hope that you have a lot of fun with this activity. Like I said, it's a simple activity, but it's a lot of fun. And this actually took me a long time. I did this in 2 sittings because I did a little bit and then I came back to it. So you can really have a lot of fun with this and not necessarily do it all in one sitting. And then, like I said, this book here has ideas for how to mount your project. If you want to make it into a piece of art, that looks really fancy, you can do some mounting, and they tell you how to do that. So this is a really great book. I have a link to the book in the description if you want to request it, because there's a lot of really good projects, even if you're not a beginner, a lot of great projects to explore some art. All right, have fun, and we'll see you next time. Bye.